2,000 Russian POWs already taken in Ukraine's Kursk offensive. At least that's the claim by a Russian source that is being circulated around right now, while the Russians are afraid of a second line of advance opening up fairly soon further north than where the current offensive is happening. We'll talk about this as well as about territorial changes and the impact of the offensive so far in the Donbass in this situational picture about Ukraine's Kursk offensive into Russia. We'll start off again with the different maps. Now, Deep State Map has done an update, and it's the most conservative that we've seen so far when it comes to maps about Ukraine's offensive. So we shouldn't take this too serious. We'll take on contrary to that, we have Tendar, a Twitter blogger, talking about mapping here where he sees the Ukrainian advance. We have Petrenko, which is one of the most reliable Ukrainian sources. This is his map of current Ukrainian control. Here we have the live UA map. This is one of the most optimistic ones when it comes to the extent of territorial control. Here I have Intel Shitzo, who has in two different colors what is permanent control or solidified control by the Ukrainians and areas of Ukrainian presence. And if he adds both of them together, he actually reaches the 1,000 square kilometers that Sirski recently mentioned. And finally, we have a Russian source as well. We have Riba here showing their map, and you see that at least in some degrees, for instance, it shows the advance to the north as well. So this is Riba's map about the current Ukraine offensive. Let's talk about the changes in territory. We have a geolocation here close to Korenevo. Here a Russian unit attacked Ukrainians with FPV drones here close to the reservoir. This shows us that the Ukrainians are now right at the outskirts. There's a forested area that provides some cover as well. Recently, they've only been up here in the tree lines where we had visual evidence. This whole video apparently leads Julian Röpke to the conclusion that the town of Olgovka is now under Ukrainian control. To be honest, I cannot see how he comes to that conclusion, at least looking at the video itself. I've watched the video and I don't come to that conclusion yet, but so far Julian Röpke's geolocations have been fairly accurate, so let's take it with some grain of salt, but it might be that Olgovka is now under Ukrainian control. Then we have reports that the Ukrainians try to advance further north, and quite significantly actually, and this is here on the UA Live map. It shows where the clashes were being reported. You can see significantly further north than where the Ukrainians recently were, and at least some of it we do have geolocations like this one here close to Kautschuk, right in the east of it. This is, as you can see, Kautschuk was here on the map. It's one of those markers here. So we have the Ukrainians further north than we had them so far. The Russians claim that those attacks were unsuccessful. We know that at least the Ukrainians suffered some losses there, but we also know that they kept advancing, that they were advancing further to the north. So likely the Ukrainians managed to push a little bit further north in this regard. Then we have this is the geolocation, yes. And then we have Wargonzo, one of the big Russian mill bloggers, claiming that the Ukrainians try to cross the border at Tyotkino, and this is here. Just to zoom out, this is fairly close to Sucha, but far to the west. So this is at this point here. According to him, the Ukrainians are trying to advance in this direction as well. Recently there have been reports about shelling here and about mechanized attacks. So it's possible, according to them, that the Ukrainians try to cross the border here as well. We also have reports that there is a troop concentration. Unfortunately, I didn't find the original source for it. Dmitry didn't post where he found it. But according to this, the Ukrainians have redeployed forces at night, so hidden to the north, and are ready to cross the border here in the town of Troyebordnoe here. This is interesting because it's significantly further north than Sucha. So this would be at this point up here, where the Ukrainians might attack soon. We have confirmation about shelling at this point. So this is where fighting is happening. This so far is only a rumor at this point, so we'll have to see how it continues. Generally, there are media reports about the situation in the Ukrainian occupied territories, where, for instance, Western journalists had the chance to talk to soldiers, and they were talking about several rotations already by fighters, which shows that the Ukrainians are not just doing a hamstring operation with minimal forces, but they seem to be able right now to rotate troops out after having fought for a day or two and replace them with units from inside Ukraine and rotate back and forth, showing that there are reserves available, that the whole operation was planned at a bigger extent and that enough resources and enough reserves are there as of now. Also, we have currently claim being spread around that employees of the Lvov penal colony AK3 have been arrested. It mentions it's 2 kilometers from Lvov in the Kursk region. Now, this is currently being spread around, and Lvov is up here actually. Here, and the penal colony is even to the north of Lvov. This led some to the claim that the Ukrainians claim they already have reached Lvov. Me, at least, according to this Telegram channel, to this comment, I cannot see how they claim that they have reached it. The video itself also just shows buses and people being arrested. It doesn't show the installation where it's supposed to be. So my understanding is that this is a claim that that prison guards have been taken prisoner at this point, which would be in accordance to what we had from the first days, where the Russians were sending everything they could find that was trained on a gun and that was under government control. Obviously, using excess prison guards that at least have rifle training would be within the realm of possibility for the first few days. Whether this video is from today or not is still disputed. Some Russians are claiming that this is some Russian mill bloggers, for instance, Rebar, Vuenkor, and Wargonzo, I think, was as well, and I think 2 majors as well, said that this is from the first day of the war, and it's actually about border guards that were taken prisoner. Unfortunately, I'm not able to confirm this, but we have the information that the Russians were sending troops that are not combat troops to the front line. So whenever it's at least having some credibility, but definitely not to the degree that there's a serious claim that the Ukrainians have reached the town of Lvov as of now. Then we have a claim by a Ukrainian mill blogger that by now 10,000 Russian soldiers are in the front line here, 9 to 10,000. This would be a number that a Ukrainian source is giving us an estimate how many soldiers the Russians have brought in. But at this point, we have to say that an easing of the situation is not visible along the Eastern Front line yet. This is an article from the New York Times from yesterday, and it says that the line I don't feel a decrease in intensity, Mr. Strokan said. Everything is being assaulted in the same way. And we had the other here. Our guys do not feel any relief, said Artem Chepko, a press officer with Ukraine's National Police Brigade, which is fighting near the strategically important town of Chasiv Yar. So far, the Ukrainians do not feel an easing of the front line, and the Russians have gained additional ground on the Eastern Front over the last 24 hours. But I'll address this in tomorrow's situation report, in tomorrow's overall situation report. So far, while there are being reinforcements sent, while we have clues and basically proof that reinforcement is being sent from Donbass as well, the soldiers on the front line don't feel it yet, because all the informations we have is that the Russians so far only send reserve units, parts of units that are currently in combat, but they don't separate units. They don't pull them out from the front line and send them to Kursk, at least not as of yet. So far the effect on the Eastern Front line is still limited. Then we have media reports again confirming the policy that Western weapons especially with longer range, are not allowed to be used within Russia. Now, from the UK, there were several claims that the usage of UK's weapon into Russia are permitted. But then again, we have the Telegraph talking about that Volodymyr Zelensky that put pressure on the British to allow missile strikes deep inside of Russia, as obviously Storm Shadow still is not doesn't have the green light to be used inside of Russia. In a Twitter article, the Ukrainian president is talking about the Kursk-Offensive, and he talks about that our state's exchange fund is growing. This can be interpreted in two ways. Obviously, that either it's meant to exchange the territory for Ukrainian territory, which would probably be one of the easiest way to receive some territory back. But for that, it would require the Ukrainians to capture a lot more and then to hold that territory as well. Or he means the prisoner of war numbers, which as of now is somewhat unclear. And for the prisoners of war numbers, we have here a Twitter claim that supposedly 2,000 prisoners of war were taken as of now. I tried to look for the source, as you can find here. I was looking for it, and all I got was thanks to a viewer, this channel here, saying according to our OGVS command, whatever that is, I have no idea what that acronym stands for, about 2,000 servicemen in the Kursk region surrendered to the Hohols is a racial slur for Ukrainians. That's almost a regiment. So the comments using a racial slur would indicate that it's pro-Russian. I have to say I don't know the channel. It's a fairly small channel with just 10,000 subscribers. It's not a fresh channel. It operates for quite some time, but that doesn't mean the claim is correct. So 2,000 admitted by the Russians would be a massive number. Obviously extremely helpful to the Ukrainians to exchange for own personnel. The number is not completely illusionary. We know that significant numbers of prisoners of wars were taken, especially as the Ukrainians initially were not facing any serious combat troops. They were facing conscripts who rather would live, who didn't volunteer to fight. They faced border troops. They might have faced prison guards. They might have faced interior police. People like that being taken prisoner of war is legitimate, especially if they fight in uniform and are being found with a gun. But that doesn't mean they are equal to real combat troops that have capitulated in huge numbers. So I have no way of confirming 2,000 prisoners of war. It's not completely unrealistic. Visual proof is probably somewhere in the 200 to 300. I would immediately believe 500 prisoners of war. 2,000 is quite extensive. But as of now, I simply can't say how close to the truth those numbers are, but we'll have to see over the midterm if we find better sources for this. But that was already it with this short situational picture about the situation in Kursk. Tomorrow I'll follow it up with the new updates and a situation report about the whole war in Ukraine. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. Leave a comment. What do you think about the current developments? And if you're new here, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. This channel is only possible because of the support of viewers like you. If you like to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. But that's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.